Hello everyone, welcome to Insights IAS initiative. Today we'll be discussing one topic related to economy, related to value inputs for your answers in economy topic, and the relate others are from essay and ethics perspective. You can also use them in the answers for governance. So the first topic is a topic from Live Mint newspaper. It is written by an Indian Economic Service Officer and an IRS officer. So these values inputs from this answer is going to be very high as it is written by those who are in service and have experienced many realities related to Indian economy. So here the title goes as policy making as usual doesn't always suffice in periods of transition. So what are the transition phase that Indian economy currently is facing, and how regularly we make policies that parameter may not work in India in the current context. So we'll look into what are the uncertainties in this transition phase and how to tackle that according to the two writers of this article. So, the first thought is about the economic thought for 2025. That is, how do we perceive the policies in economy for the next year? So, as we step into the new year, the world appears to be increasingly uncertain in many ways. It may include the multiple wars and civil wars that are going on. Climate change is a parameter. New technologies that are developing is a challenge and an opportunity in itself. So we do not know how many such uncertain events are going to come. So it is going to be a year of the unknown is a parameter we can consider. So this new year is fraught with many such unknown uncertainties. So definitely many global challenges needs to be corrected. International efforts are needed to bring these uncertainties to rest, but India must realize that it should not stop us from the window of opportunity that we have got. So let's not wait for the world to rectify its errors and then focus on our rectification. We'll work ourselves. The world changing itself will be an independent thought. So, the first idea that the authors have spoken about with respect to what should be our future 2025 economy look like, the first point is about the technological evolution. So, what is the idea here is we need many policies to be devised that curb the widening inequality this technological evolution will bring. So, inequality with respect to technological evolution that needs to be curbed should be the idea of our policymakers. So, let's say from drone to self driven cars. So, the technology must remain an instrument in the hands of well informed people. So, why this is relevant? We see that there are many fringe elements in the world over. There are many militant groups which are also quite well advanced in their technological prowess. So, the idea of the governments in the coming year should be that this technological evolution should be in the hands of well informed human beings only. So, the regulation of economic policies should be in this direction. So, economists they must make sure that humans have to navigate the era of machine learning in a smooth pattern. So the second point here is science versus economics. So, how do we conduct scientific experiments? It is usually done in the laboratories, but when it comes to economics, the economists do not have a lab situation or lab like conditions where they can test various policies or test their theories. Hence, unlike science, economists make their predictions in a rapidly changing world altogether. So, what is exactly good economics in this case then? So, good economics is the art of designing policies that reduce the impact of these uncertainties. Right? This is something with a very unique point. This is the second point we can consider related to difference between scientific decisions and how economic decisions are very challenging. So, what are these uncertainties? If we see, for example, there are many countries which are now going for friend shoring or we can say reshoring. So countries are prioritizing their economic decisions and investment decisions based on the friends that they are having and the diplomatic ties they are having with. The second idea is many countries are trying to regulate their supply chain. So as the supply chain regulation is going on, many countries leave India. Many of them have come and established themselves in India. So this supply chain mitigation and friendshoring is can be taken as example of uncertainties. So the idea here the author tells us about short term buffers. That is, in the short term, we need to create certain shock absorbers or buffers on the basis of high frequency data that is available to us. Based on the information available, we need to cushion our economy, but in the long term the policies should be designed in such a way that these buffers are also accommodated. So the author gave us the example of COVID-19, where in an immediate buffer, what did the government do? It provided a good amount of food security to the public. It provided vaccines to the people at free of cost. Hospitalizations were taken care of to in many public hospitals. This was a short term measure or a buffer to come out of the COVID situation. But what were the long term measures taken? It was increasing the share of health in a GDP, a health policy that focused on preventive health care. Then we can also talk about diagnosis and detection of diseases. This mechanism was started from the district level itself. So these were policy changes in the long run that in future, if we get any pandemic like COVID, we should be able to manage it. So these kind of policies we need, where in the short term we create buffers, in the long term the policy should be over encapsulating all these ideas. The third point the author talks about is anticipatory policy making. That is, when crisis hits, who are impacted the most? It is the least advantaged population, or to be specific, those who are not insured against such uncertainties. So policy making should be an insurance for inclusive growth. So let's say if COVID like disaster comes, the situation should be such that people will be able to handle it better. So we should be anticipating the worst that is going to come and include the models of healthcare and the disaster care and the other important areas that need the financing. They need to be suited based on every country's local requirement. So for India, when we are making policies, we should anticipate the future challenges and accommodate our fund allocation or resource allocation based on these anticipations. And also it should be influenced by the demographic structures. So this was the third point told by the authors. The fourth one is highlighting the capital for climate change. That is, developing economies like India, they face a little fiscal headroom. That is, they have very less amount to spend on climate parameters. So countries must choose which kind of private finance or which kind of climate finance they are going to go for. Is it going to be publicly funded, or is it going to be private funded, or money will be raised by private agencies? Another choice the countries have to make is, or India needs to make is, are we going to give more importance to mitigation of climate change, or are we focusing on adaptation to climate change? So once our policies are clear with respect to this, implementing the ideas of climate change or any other parameters we are checking to keep the emissions under control, that would be well structured and well planned. So the next idea is the fifth point, where the author talks whether numbers and statistics should be important or humans should be important. So if you know, economy is more about human decision making. It is about more about human experiences rather than numbers and models. So Indian social structure is evolving at a rapid pace. So in less than a decade, India has transitioned from a country that is having a problem called lack of sanitation to a country that is having the tag of open defecation free. So while government can ensure that accessibility of public goods will be possible, how do we ensure that it is utilized within the household? So for this purpose, we need a lot of nudging. That is, it is where the arena of behavioral economy enters. behavioral economics. So, numbers or models may tell one thing, but making humans work on that pattern is the challenge that we'll face. So, testing and devising behavioral strategies to nudge collective responsive behavior should be the idea of the Indian government. Let's say, for example, we are talking about a financial behavior here. So in financial behavior, what needs changes we need to do? We need to talk about financial literacy with the people. We need to encourage them to go for digital savings over physical savings. So the responsibility of saving behavior should be put from the younger generation itself, so that it prevents an aging crisis in the second half of the century. So to achieve all of this, it is only that the nudge economics or behavioral economics that's going to work. So, a lot of research needs to be done on this background for the coming years, is an idea here. The sixth component, how can our discussions be incomplete without giving a gender component to it? So, taking account of the multifarious issues women face in all walks of life and provide workable solutions is something that is the gender component we are talking about. So, we must utilize the talent of the nation's progress. That is, we have made a great progress when it comes to women literacy and education. But when we don't integrate them into the economy, it is a half-hearted effort. So, as it we have seen that there was a Nobel laureate called Claudia Goldin who had conducted a research on women workforce and its outcome in US for 200 years. So it was a scientific study, or it was a study based on many statistics which told how with the increasing number of women participating, the GDP of the country also has increased. So in a similar manner, India also needs to build a tool, a simulator tool, which would do the gender analysis that will suit our social context. So the idea is we are now in an era of neo empowered women. So how do we give them an opportunity in our growing economic space? So this were the major ideas told by the author related to what should be our economic policy making in the year 2025. So as you know, this would be relevant in paper 3, Indian economy topic, in a specific manner. So the next topic, there was a conclusion, a very good conclusion for this article given in the whole article, that Rabindranath was quoted here telling, "A mind all logic is a knife all blade. It makes the hand bleed that uses it." If you recall, this is nothing but a previous year essay question. So economic solution must be driven by the kind of society we want to create, evolving with the needs of our times. So this discussion also will be suited for the essay perspective if it is in a philosophical tone. So the next topic is related to a case study from Tamil Nadu recently. So the title goes, "Two Teens, Thousands of Books, Mission to Rewrite Future." So this is about an urban jungle called Chennai, just like any other urban landscapes in the world today, where childhood dreams are often withering away due to the scorching sun of inequality we can see. So these two teenagers whose image you can see here, that is Aditi Srivatsava and Neha Govindrajan, they have created a lot of difference just at the age of 17 years. So both of them are young teenagers in the country. So they have tried to bridge the educational divide for underprivileged children here by creating a foundation called Blue Lilac Foundation. Okay, this is one of the this is the foundation that is created by the two girls here. So what is their idea is they collect and distribute books to schools that lack resources. So what they do is they visit apartments, they visit homes, and try to interact with people who have many books lying idle in their home, collect them and give it to those schools where children are wanting to read, but the schools are not able to afford providing them with these resources. So if you see this idea, it is a very good example for our paper 4. We'll come to that part a little later. So what is the source of inspiration for the two kids here? When it comes to the case of Neha, it is her grandmother who always spoke about how she was disadvantaged and she couldn't get educated, but had all the will to pursue education and wanted to study and excel in her life. So the pain of this grandmother shared with the granddaughter all the time, it motivated Neha to take some decisions, so that she's encouraged to work for the education of those who are not getting an opportunity to do so. On the other hand, when it comes to the story of Aditi here, the idea is that her grandfather, who is a retired RBI officer, he has always given her a lesson of lifelong commitment to giving back to the society. So she believed that age doesn't matter, and it is the right time that we can do small interventions like this, where we'll do nothing, collect books from those who do not want to keep it at home, distribute it to the children who want to study. So, as of now, just in a span of 1.5 years, they have distributed 7,500 books in the schools. But the story doesn't stop here. The two realized that we need to do something more for the purpose of education. So they took up two critical issues to take care of. One is English proficiency. That is, we see that many a times, even in the schools that are English medium, there is a lot of struggle that the children have to do when it comes to speaking English or using them in their daily language. So these two girls started working with educators to develop a curriculum that emphasized on conversational skills and practical use of the language. So this is an initiative that they're doing now. In addition, they are also working on financial literacy. Financial literacy, that is, they are teaching children and the teenagers especially as how to manage their money. So as we know, managing money wisely can change lives to a great extent. They help students, and they help the younger generation people to know how to save money. So what is the impact of it now? So as a result, many girls have seen the two sisters doing this work here, and they have seen that some of the children also have started doing this in their locality. There are some young children who got inspired by this, and they also started collecting books and giving to these girls so that they can distribute in the schools. So this is what we call ripple effect. So one idea can spark so much of attention. So it's not just turning pages. Reading book is about turning pages, flipping the pages. So when we flip pages, it's not just about a physical action, it is nothing but rewriting the stories of the countless lives. So these two girls are telling that each book is acting as a doorway to opportunities, and it is a great initiative started in the state. So as we know, this is a very good example for us in our GS paper 4, where youngsters have taken the initiative. But there is a small thing we can look into it, or a deeper meaning of this action is that we often underestimate the impact of small acts and gestures. We believe that what will really change if I take this small step. So, when this hesitation stopped the two girls, they wouldn't have created this difference. So, the two have shown that even the smallest effort can light the brightest fire in the society, bringing many important changes that were pending, or where the spaces where government cannot exist, these initiative or civil society groups can really work on that. So this reminds me of a very good theory that can be used in our answers called butterfly effect. So, what is butterfly effect? As a concept, in 1961, this was devised by Edward Lawrence. Basically, this was a model to see the weather patterns or weather simulations. So, the idea goes like, even if a butterfly flutters its wings, the impact of the pressure or impact of that butterfly flickering in one area gets amplified once it moves to various distance and has the power to create a tornado. So this theory is what we call butterfly effect. So if you just magnify this and look into it from the human perspective, if you know, humans are part of a larger system in the universe where various parts interact and affect one another. So whatever we do, no matter how small or big, it can have a deep impact on our lives and the lives of others. So it is giving us a conclusion that small things matter. So, in one of the previous episodes, we have seen how a small smile has changed the destiny of a person altogether. In a similar manner, small things matter is the crux of this butterfly effect theory. So, we are all connected to a bigger system, and one effect of one small change that we take today has a lot of repercussions in the near future. So, if you want to see how this article can be used, it is like the first one is talking about the power of knowledge. So, when it comes to power of knowledge and education, so education is not a perception for life, but it is the life itself. So, there is a lot of transformative power that education and knowledge comes with. And as educated girls, you can see what miracles the two girls have done. The second concept, or how to use it in our answer, is the idea of Rousseau here. So he's a philosopher whose mention we often make in our ethics answer sheets. So Rousseau mentions a concept called innate goodness of human beings. That is, by default, there is a good feeling or a good attitude in human beings. It is the situation which needs to be ripened to bring out those good thoughts. So this innate goodness can be harnessed in multiple people when youngsters are taking such initiatives. It kind of instigates the innate goodness of others in the society, thus creating the ripple effect. So, the third idea here where we can use this is in the Ubuntu philosophy of Africa. So, we have again covered this in one of our previous ICANN episodes. Ubuntu concept tells that I am because we are. So, this idea of giving back to the society for one's own betterment or collective betterment of all is a very good representation in our answers. So, if you see, there is a very popular quote which we can relate to this topic, like dripping water hollows out stone, not through the force but through persistence. So, one drop of water, when it keeps on falling on a particular stone, it has the power to destabilize or even cut the stone. So, this is told by a Roman poet. If you get this in your paper 4 or in your essays, this argument or these kind of discussions where small changes make a lot of impact if it gets amplified is a very good example. So the next, or we can also have a PYQ here. What does this quotation convey to you in the present context? The simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. So this was a previous year question to which the story of the two girls from Chennai is a very good example to begin your answer with, or even to quote in your answers. So the next is a very interesting situation that had happened in India's context. In our introductory video, we had told that we will cover issues from social media as well. But this is an incident that happened on social media, but many newspapers have also covered it. So this is about an influencer called Anish Bhagat, who recently documented his entire day with a sex worker and shared the heartfelt video on Instagram. And to see, he has 17.7 million and he has many followers, and this particular video has garnered 17.7 million views already. So this shows that initiatives by a social media influencer who has so many followings is a very good opportunity and the threat at the same time. So this is a small incident that has happened. We are going to see how to use this in our answers. So this person whom we are talking about here, who's a sex worker, her name is Roxy. So she is one of the followers of the influencer called influencer about whom we are talking about here. So she is the one who is a follower and invites him to meet her one day. So when this person goes out to meet her, he spends a whole day understanding the challenges that the person has faced in her daily life. So this incident has been recorded very well by him in the video that he has updated. So you can see the screen grab here. It is from the videos shared by the influencer. He had even taken her out to for a dinner, as she told that some food item she has not tasted. So where is this relevant for in our exams? So if you see, this whole incident has a very deep impact in the way it is conducted. So in the GS paper 2, there are various challenges faced by vulnerable sections of our society. We have this as a topic in our syllabus. And what is the role of media and social influencers in bringing the idea of vulnerable sections to the public. So, it's a positive tool by influencing the public opinion and policy making. These influencer can make a lot of difference in the lives of the people. So, when it comes to ethics, there is a Kantian idea or Immanuel Kant's idea that can be discussed here. So, Immanuel Kant usually speaks about treating individuals as ends in themselves. If you have revised ethics, you will be remembering this, treating individuals as ends in themselves and not considering them as a means to attain an end. So, every person possesses an inherent worth by the virtue of being rational and autonomous being. So, respecting individual dignity is it is uh, an important moral obligation that we follow. Hence, if you are writing any question on Immanuel Kant, this video or the relevance of a person or a social media influencer interviewing a prostitute becomes a important example that we give, where the influencer has respected her dignity and has tried to send her message or tried to give her life as a idea to the whole world. So at the same time, Immanuel Kant also talks about universal moral laws. So some laws are universal and irrespective of time and place, they won't change. So this idea of human dignity also comes under a universal law, we can tell. And at the same time, he always mentions about use of reason to challenge unjust social norms. So this reason the influencer here talks about is the prejudices and the stigma that the sex workers in the society suffer from, and making such videos will help people to think and reason why this prejudice is wrong and they need to be treated equally in the society. So when it comes to Gandhian idea with respect to this whole concept, Gandhiji has always spoken about direct engagement. So you have seen Gandhiji was a supporter of Dalit cause. He used to stay with the Dalit population. He used to bring them in his ashram and his other living places as well. So he popularized the idea of direct engagement with marginalized communities, so that one gets truly used to the struggles of the marginalized communities. Once we understand the struggle, developing policies for them would be a easier option. The next idea we can link to this topic is related to ethical leadership. So, ethical leadership talks about understanding stereotypes in the first place. When most all of you will become officers, we need to understand what are the stereotypes that are persistent in the society and what can we do to break the chain of these stereotypes. So in the case of the sex workers, they are stereotyped that all of them are not well cultured, they are not educated to take choices, and the profession that they have chosen is by will. But many of the people here are forced into the profession and it was not a choice for them. So this idea of a video of sensitizing the idea of a sex worker is creating a narrative imagination. Okay, what is the meaning of narrative imagination here? It is trying to put a viewpoint through a very good, impactful way of telling a story. So, when we tell a story, it moves more lives than just depicting the facts. So, it is making a person experience the live reality of a worker here. So, it builds the compassion in them. So, this narrative or this episode can be used for us as an example, especially when you get a case study, as in how will you remove a stereotype or a prejudice in your locality. You can use this idea of narrative imagination by giving the example of what the influencer has done here. So compassionate policy making will be an outcome if we use this kind of ideas. So let's say in policy making, we can integrate labor rights for the workers in this case, safe spaces for them, social security for them. So once we look into the problems from the lens of compassion, policy making will be a better idea. So this the ethical angle we can give is also about moral courage. So many a times the societal taboo do not let us talk comfortably about all these words and phenomenon, but the influencer has not bothered about it much and has the moral courage to stand with a follower who is facing a life of challenges. So this kind of videos will also help us for social inclusion, where the sections of the society that are outcasted, they can be brought into the stream of development. In the same way, we can talk this whole example as ethics in action. That is, it is very easy to preach, but when we practice, that is when ethics will come into picture. So practicing ethics is an example given by this particular video that was released, right? The next article we can talk about is based on an article from New Indian Express. Remember to take nothing personally. So this we'll start this basically with a story. Okay, so this story was from 1990s, when a few tourists in the US, that is in the Los Angeles, went to a club where an Asian singer was singing a song. So the singer was female in this case, and the two tourists were male. So to make themselves more comfortable, they sat in a comfortable manner, and accidentally their toes were directing towards the singer. So this female singer thinks that they are intentionally trying to insult her by sitting in this inappropriate manner, and try to discuss or bring this matter to the point of the two male after the whole show is completed. So she confronts them and fights with them, telling that why did you sit in such a manner to disgrace me? And the two people tell that what was wrong, we were just sitting comfortably, it is totally justified. So both of the teams get into a fight, and in the end the singer takes out a rifle and in a fit of rage tries to shoot one of the persons here, and the person loses their life. So this situation here is, can we think that it can be averted? Could the life of this person be saved in this case? The answer is yes. So how it could have been averted? The singer, if we take it from the perspective of a singer, uh, she shouldn't have taken it personally and left them after expressing displeasure or telling that I was not happy with your behavior. And when it came to the two men, instead of fighting or insulting her, they could have told that we didn't mean to insult you. They could have apologized to her and for have hurting her feelings. This could have solved the problem then and there, but here a person just lost the life. But in the real life, why don't we avert many of these disasters in a simple way? The idea here is very well explained by the author, telling that in the two teams, like most of the humans in the daily life, they couldn't separate people. That is, individuals are on one side. They couldn't separate people from the words they have spoken or their behavior. So the author here is telling that individuals are separate from the words or behavior that they are doing. And this, if we link it up and mix that what I am speaking is what I am, then it is having a very dangerous outcome. So people often suffer more from their reactions, whether it is positive or negative. And when these reactions combined with negative emotions that accompany them, then others behavior also would evoke these. So many of the time we see that the focus is shifting. We have to shift the focus basically from judging what others are doing to you, that is to us personally, who is observing how to respond to avert any kind of distress that can come. So basically, instead of focusing on what other person is doing, whether it is right or wrong, we can focus on our own self to decide how to respond to it. If that rings any bell, it is nothing but one of our PYQs. We'll come to that. So what is the logic behind it? So people's behavior often reflects how their conscious mind is programmed. So how they have learned to interpret life's experiences, and how they have experienced many of their childhood memories, and how they responded during that time, how they were tutored during that time, as in what was right and what was wrong. All these things will matter when a person tries to express themselves. So what they have gone through and what life has taught them, it is that which reflects in their behavior. It has nothing to do anything with you or we as a receptor of the behavior. So, what exactly happens in this case? We at times get so attached to our views that we don't have any meaningful discussions. What is the reason? We have either never initiated these kind of discussions, or we have aborted these discussions in midway because we get into fight with others when we are trying to prove a point, or we end it unpleasantly. So when all these things happens, why this is happening? Because we are too attached to our views. So we have an evolutionary need to prove ourselves correct, whether we are factually correct or morally correct, even if we are wrong or ill informed. So what happens at the end? We lose a learning experience. So we don't learn anything because we are rigid on accepting or putting forward our own views. So what we have to do? What is the solution for this? We have to drive a wedge, that is trying to separate us from the ideas, beliefs, and opinions. So anytime we use the prefix mine, ours, that should be avoided. So what happens? It is not taking anything personally, it is being kind to ourselves and others. So what happens as an outcome of this? It shields us from unnecessary stress, it preserves important relationships, it helps us to maintain mental peace, it steers the discussions and gives us meaningful learning experiences, and at the end of the day it builds a more peaceful world. So I hope you are able to link here. We are trying to identify ourselves with our ideas, making our ideas help to define our own personalities, but that is not how it is. So the author here told a small story where a person was ready to go to work and he was well dressed in the formal attire, waiting for the cab to come. So in this gap, a child with a ball approaches him and asks him to play with the uh, person here. So they start playing with the ball, and the ball goes and falls in a muddy area. The child picks up the ball and, even without thinking twice, throws the ball to the person who is ready to walk to his office. So, without any hesitation, what would we have done? Probably we would have screamed, yelled at the kid, telling that, can't you see that we are well dressed? But this person here very smartly jumps to the other side and lets the ball fall down without creating a mess on the clothes. So, this is the idea here. How this is relevant is, when people are stressed or in bad mood, they tend to look for a partner. So this person is angry, they'll search for somebody on whom they can show all their tantrums. So this partner could be provoked. So what will happen when this anger is thrown on the partner? This person screams back, both of them try to fight with each other, and this friendship or relationship may end or may take different turns. So such invitation. So what we'll do if we are this person who is invited to these kind of arguments, however attractive it is, we must reject the invitation, just like how in the previous case the person avoided catching a muddy ball. Okay, so while empathizing with the person who is angry with them, we have to jump aside mentally and let the ball fall. So be kind to yourself and emerge emotionally untouched. Why this is relevant? In any of these situations, we should not feel that this person is angry at me, hence they are screaming. If anybody else was there in this position, the person A would have still screamed on them. So if we don't take it personally, this would save the friendship here. If we take it personally, we react to it, but we don't respond to it. So humility protects us from humiliation. So what is the idea here? The knee jerk reaction is not needed. We need to respond to the ideas. So take time to give yourself some time to reflect on what we actually have seen and heard. Okay, so end result will be that world be a better place, that we don't take things personally. So, if you remember, this is a previous year essay question. Ships do not sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets into them. So, if we take things personally about whatever is happening around us, we are letting this water into our own selves, which will lead to us drowning in endless thoughts. So at the same time, this kind of idea where emotional intelligence in the concept of emotional intelligence in GS paper 4, also this idea would be relevant. So many of you have been asking for PDF. We have got a comment yesterday as well. But the suggestion is, if you have watched our previous videos, we have always encouraged you to take down notes for the purpose that it will give you your own perspectives. When you're noting down, many other horizons will open up, and probably you will be able to use them in your answers in a better way. So the best suggestion for you is to go to the old school method, make the notes yourself, so that when you read something in your own handwriting, that will always be more effective in revision. So once you listen to the video and take down the notes simultaneously, the chances of you forgetting the usage of this when you're writing the answers are very less. So for your own developmental purpose, we have always encouraged you to take down notes under I can. So please try to experience this in your answer writing. There'll be a lot of difference if you take it down yourself. Any other concerns, please let us know. Thank you so much. Meet you in the next episode.